Hello everyone, it's Scott and welcome back to another episode of Project Ozone 2 Titan Mode. A little bit of an upgrade here, so I have attached a chest filled with sulfur dust to the Stirling generator, and with that, each one of these is producing about 8,000 RF per tick at a pretty measly 50 RF per tick. Or 8,000 RF at the 50 RF per tick burn rate. And that's powering the automatic sieve, which is producing quite a bit of crushed items for me. So at this point, I've added 4 fortune upgrades, so that is adding to the RF consumption, but that's something that I needed to do for automatic sieving. So the next thing I'm going to need to do is make a speed upgrade, which is something I can manage later. I think it's a little... there was something funky about that one. The speed upgrade is going to need blitz powder, which is a little more complicated. I can put sand through a fluid transposer at this point, or I think there's a way I can create a blitz with a ex nihilo barrel, but I've forgotten exactly how to go about doing that. So that's something that's just going to have to wait for me at this point. So not much other improvements since the last time I recorded. I've been trying to expand the grassy area over here, albeit very slowly. The dirt is slowly accumulating here, and I'm just loading it up piece by piece. F9 key to find the chunk boundary. So I would just want to make sure that I have enough squares within the same chunk, because if I recall, the spawning is done on a per chunk basis, and I think it has to do with the amount of grassy squares that you have. But in any case, I'm going to keep working on this chunk here until I have a full grassy layout. So the other pieces of the base are working pretty good, although the server is lagging quite a bit lately, unfortunately. I don't know if that's just my relation to where I am to the server, but it is kind of annoying. My partner seems to have dropped out, so I guess that's just the way it is. We all move on, and but he's left behind a lot of junk. So I've been opening up loot bags and reward bags and kind of doing stuff around the base. The main thing I want to do next is create a key from the storage drawers mod. So if I recall, it's going to be this. So the drawer key is going to, if I think, yeah, simple right click, yes, with that little lock icon. So that's going to lock in the items in this layout. So if I draw the items down to 0, it'll still retain the item metadata. So good. So now I can go through and basically, if I find platinum somewhere, I can kind of draw that down. Though there is a lot of aluminum ore that I want to work on. So another thing I'd like to do is to make the watering can. So I'm going to need that definitely for what's going on here. I'm definitely going to need that to work on agricraft. Yep, this is getting really pokey, unfortunately. So I'm really not that far into the mission pack where I'm not against starting over. Unfortunately, the multiplayer server is just not living up to what single player mode can do, obviously. So that little bit of lag can really, yeah, only a couple players have full bars here. So I guess at this point, the coke oven has produced my first creosote, so I can start crafting up some treated lumber if I so choose. So that means I can get started on the water wheel. And I've also been trying to map out my path to uh, iron, so steel. So what I want to do is take a look at the if I'm going to make a gate to the nether, then I'm going to need the flint and steel, right? But before I can do that, I'm going to need the steel ingot. And the easiest path appears to be going through molten steel, uh, which actually is not terrible. Iron and coal. Is there anything that... Yeah, see, this is going to require crushed coal for me to make the liquefied coal. At that point, coal powder and pulverized coal are going to require a machine. I don't think I can actually make a grindstone yet. Well, actually, I can. So the grindstone to the coal to the crushed coal to mixing it with iron will make me steel. So actually, let me see if I can whip that up. Alright, so I found out that I'm not going to be able to make the pulverized coal with just normal lava fuel. So I ended up making some blazing pyrotheum by going back to the grindstone and taking powder, sulfur, redstone, and blaze. And at this point, I'm going to whip up just a couple more pieces of copper. While this is going, let's grab the smeltery drain. And I'm going to add the drain over here, I think. Yeah, I guess I'll put it right here. Okay. And there's no problem with breaking blocks in the Tinker's Construct Smeltery as long as you don't break the main smeltery controller. You can pull things apart and put them back together. It's not like the iron tank. And so what I want to do at this point, I'm going to select the blazing pyrotheum, and actually what I'm going to do is grab that copper piece then and whip up a tank. So copper plus glass all around in the four corners makes the tier 1 thermal expansion portable tank. And so what I'm going to do is place this underneath the smeltery drain, and I'm going to transfer the fluid out using this transfer node. And so like that, we now have a tank full of 200 millibuckets of pyrotheum. So let's gather up this. Great. And we'll go around the other side, and I'm going to have to add it back in as a fuel at this point. So let's place it up here, and I think I'm going to have to hit that with a wrench, actually, because I see that that is blue. Whoops, too many. So it's currently set to input mode, and I want to add the fuel over here. So let's see if I can come up with a cheap formula for a wrench at this point. So got the Buildcraft wrench, which is pretty simple. The crescent hammer, iron and tin. Actually, I should be able to make one of those. I remember that being a pretty useful wrench before because I think it can actually rotate an item in addition to activating it. So crescent hammer, yes. Sure, it's a wrench, but any tool's a wrench. Okay, so output, and yes, okay, so that is stuck until I drain out the lava. So let's try, well, let's drain out all the copper at this point, and then I'll move the I'll move this tank one over to the right and then dump out all the lava with, whoops. Maybe I'll move it one to the left. Okay, I'll put it over here. And what I'll do is I'll drain out the lava as soon as this copper is done extracting. Alright, I'm finally ready. So let's take the blazing pyrotheum and dump it into the smeltery. So, little tiny bit of fuel. Yeah, but this is going to tick up the pulverized coal at this point. So, question is whether this is going to be enough to complete the rest of the coal burn. But it does seem to be moving a tiny bit. Let's go over and I added the drain over here. Let's fix the. Whoops, that's not what I meant to do. Let's put the empty tank right here so I can grab that iron that was pumped out. At this point, this is now an empty node, so I'm going to rip it out so it doesn't accidentally pull out more items. Okay, so at this point, yep, I think it's going to be enough. So let me just wait it out. There we go. Liquefacted coal plus iron equals steel. So I now have 4 ingots of molten steel. Awesome. So I can turn this back on and pump out my ingots. And this stuff is better than liquid gold at this point. So let's grab out that steel ingot. Let's make ourselves a flint. And then we should be ready to create our first gate to the nether. Bada bing, bada bing. Flint and steel. Awesome. And here's our obsidian, so I just need to make one more piece of obsidian. And we should be good to go. Alright, let's light this puppy up and head over to the nether. Bam. Here we go. Okay, first order of business is to secure the portal back. So let me take care of that. Then it's a matter of finding a couple of good things to mine. I already see a lot of ores already, so that is a very good sign. And there's a slime tree. Very nice. So that might be a green glowy mushroom, actually. Now the thing I also have to be careful about is, if I recall, the nether is filled with exploding blocks. So there is no real good way to mine them other than to hit them and then run away. And did I already? Nope. Okay. So let's build up the wall, and then I'll do a little exploring. That stinks. Alright, I'm back in the nether. After cleaning my stuff and doing a little bit of prep work, I've gathered up a lot of material now. I have some ores, I have some diamonds, some redstone, a whole bunch of stuff. And the way I did that was I drilled down to the very bottom and then used elevator blocks to basically bring myself to the top. And then I used the pickaxe with the hammer ability to basically clear out large swaths of netherrack. And that turns it into crushed netherrack. And then I went down to the lava lake that's down at the bottom of all the nether and gathered myself up. Whoops. gather myself up a whole tank full of lava. So at that point, I kind of went back to the overworld, and then I plugged the tank into my Tinker's Construct smeltery, and that's what gave me enough lava to basically process a tremendous amount of iron. So the grinding setup that I have is okay. I end up making 2 more Sterling generators and a little bit more fortune upgrades, and that's what's allowing this to grind through and basically get a ton of ores. So I am using the sulfur dust, which is burning out pretty well, and I made a new block, the compactor, and you'll see that basically what it does is I can just throw in anything and it'll break it down into 2x2 blocks, auto combine them, and then I can just mash them with my my pickaxe, and bam, more material. So in that way, I've been kind of blowing through the iron pretty well. I probably have more than I need at this point, and I really need to get going on some further automation, basically to start to work my way up towards getting more material. So I think the next thing I want to do is do a little bit of Botania work and work my way towards getting the mana pool and at least some mana spreaders. So the mana pool is going to be fairly easy at this point because I have the living stone, the living rock, from putting stone around the daisy, and I can make a spreader here as soon as let's bring up the spreader recipe. Mana spreader is going to be it's going to be 7 living wood and any kind of petal. So let's come back to our petal chest over here. Bam. So let's find let's go with green here because I have several of them. And with the petals then, let's whip up one of the mana spreaders. So ding, 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 and done. Mana spreader. So all I need next is to come up with some introductory mana, and that is going to be through the day bloom. And so with the day bloom, ignoring this recipe, I'm going to need 2 yellow petals, a light blue, and an orange. And I'm probably going to need a couple of them. So let's grab the light blue flower. Do I have any of the orange? Yeah, mystical orange flower. And then some yellow. Oh, unfortunately, I only have 1 yellow. So that's going to limit me to, unfortunately, only 1 flower. So let's grab some seeds and head on over to the petal apothecary and putting a little bit of water in. Let's break all these down into their petal form. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So with that, that's enough to make 1 day bloom. And then I'm going to throw in our seeds, and bam, there we go. So let's head back over to the grassy area and figure out where do we want to put this. Let's start out by putting it probably here. Why not? Alright, and so with the day bloom, I'll put down a spreader, and I'm going to have to craft our wand up next. So let's go with another orange because I'm going to need 2 petals more, and then back to the living wood. And let's craft some living twigs out of this. So bink bink. Gonna need a little bit more. There we go. Twigs and 2 petals. 1, 2. And that'll give us a wand that we can use to analyze and set up the spreaders. So with this, we see that the day bloom is full. So let's shift click, and I think, yep, shift right click to direct its output to the pool. Let's bind the flower to the spreader, and the spreader is hooked up to the pool, and that means that very shortly I should be getting some mana in our pool. So, yep, teeny tiny bit. So the next thing I really want to do is get going with the next tier, which is of course going to be the endoflames. So endoflames look a little more difficult here. Okay, brown petals, mana powder, pixie dust. Well, pixie dust is going to be way down the line. So that means I'm basically going to let's see, what else is hydrangea is feasible at this point. So blue, cyan, and mana powder. Mana powder is going to require gunpowder, so I'm going to have to build this up a little bit from the day bloom. So let me work on getting more mana petals, especially those yellow ones, so I can charge up my mana pool. Alright, let's grab this hammer and head back over to our crafting area, where I think we can whip up some of the watering can at this point. So watering can is going to require a couple of things. We're going to require 3 plates, an aluminum rod. So let's grab one of the rods here, and then the plates are just going to be the hammer plus ingots. So let's throw that in and grab 1, 2, 3. Next, we're going to need a bucket and some and some of the bone meal. So that'll act like white coloring. So let's grab one of these, and I'll use my trusty bucket, and bada bing, here we go. Watering can empty. Excellent. So let's fill this up by right clicking on water, and now we have a normal watering can. Awesome. So if I were to break this apart, then piece it all back together. So, and there we go. That's how we're going to grow up our agricraft farm, and excellent. So the other thing I did was build a nightshade flower over here, and let's check in on our mana level. So we have a tiny bit of mana at this point, so that should be enough for us to whip up some mana dust, and that was with the gunpowder. So let's grab a little bit of that and throw it in, and then I'll work on whipping up a hydrangea as soon as I drop this in. 1, 2, there we go. Okay, so with the mana powder and the other petals, I think I might need to actually make a couple more of the floral fertilizer, the special fertilizer. Here it is, the floral fertilizer. So let's grab the dandelions here, and then whip that up. And of course, I forgot the bone meal. So let's grab a couple more of those. So poppies and dandelions should make our fertilizer like such. And I'll just go through and do this in between recordings. Now that I have this this formula laid out, there we go. So a couple more black. So that means I should be able to make another nightshade, except that the night's almost done. So now these haven't turned to they have not turned to withered flowers yet, so I don't know if that's something that's turned on in this version or not. But we'll just wait and see how that develops. All right, the last thing I want to work on today is to get myself a QED. So the quantum energy device is going to require a bunch of ender infused obsidian, as well as this diamond etched matrix, which is burnt quartz and more obsidian. So to make this, I'm going to use just obsidian that I've been getting from my stone barrel, as well as ender pearls. So let's grab all of those and head over and grab 4 of our diamonds, and then head over and grab our burnt quartz. So I got that by making blocks of quartz. The quartz I'm getting from loot bags. So let's grab that and head over here. Let's grab the material for one more of the let's make a crafting table. And I think I'm also going to need to make some Eyes of Ender, so 2 blaze powder. Luckily those are the last 2 that I have. So blaze powder is Ender Pearl, Eyes of Ender. And so that should be everything I need then. Actually, I forgot to make the computational matrix, so let's do that like so. And then everything together should make 1 QED. Excellent. And so to power the QED, which is now known as a quite expensive decoration, we're going to need this guy, the Enderflux crystal. So unfortunately, I'm going to need to get a little bit more blaze powder, and I'm not feeling that brave, though I could go to the end and try to gather some up. But you see that it's fluid transposer. I'm not going to get that for a long time. That's unfortunate. Okay, so I'm just going to have to continue sieving dust until I get a couple more blaze powders in order to make those crystals. Okay, and there we go. 2 crystals and a QED. So with that, I'm going to call this an episode. I think that the next step is I'm going to need to find a way to get rubies. So I can either explore the nether and hope I find a nether ruby ore, or I figure out how to get to the ether, which is going to require jetpacks. So I'll take a look and see if I can whip up possibly in either case a simple jetpack and from the Simply Jetpacks mod, and see if I can get ready to go at the beginning of the next episode. So if you could, please leave a comment or a like. Let me know how I'm doing, and I'll see you next time in Project Ozone 2 Titan Mode. Bye!